as you guys get settled on your backs, I'm gonna stay seated because I'm gonna share a reading and just take you through your centering, and then I'll join you on your backs in a moment. So as you lie back, just notice what you need to be comfortable. Okay, so whether you want to have something underneath your head, or I know it's really hot right now, you probably don't have anything on you, but just notice what helps your body settle into your mat, into the earth. It allows you to surrender to gravity and allows you to truly drop into the moment. Supporting our physical body is really an important part of that, so that it's not, we're minimizing the distractions. Minimizing the distractions, that would be a good way to put it. And once you feel you've settled in to that just right position, which I will, as always, encourage you to have your knees bent, feet in the floor, and then maybe just kind of bring the feet a little wider than your hips, let the knees fall together. Just the legs are supporting each other. If that's comfortable, hip-wise, it's not always comfortable for everybody, but if you can, lean up against each other. Eyes softly closed. And begin with paying attention to your breath, and in particular, where the air, we're going to breathe through the nose, and notice where the air in the nostrils meets the back of the throat. Just be aware of the sensations of the breath, the back of the nostrils, and the throat area. And just feel that. Nothing more. We're not shifting or shaping the breath. Noticing if there's a coarseness to your breath or if it's smooth. Noticing the coolness of the breath as it enters the body, and a sense of warmth when it exits the body. As we normally do, let's check in with those various layers of our being, starting with the physical body, and kind of tagging along with what we spoke about at the beginning of class and what happened in Conscious Conversations yesterday, is can you find an acceptance, not a judgment, and letting go of the need to fix anything right now. Just noticing head to toe areas that need your attention or are trying to get your attention. Or that need your care today. And then they shift from practice to practice. It could be the same place every time that you're working with. And we notice our energy body. So the quality of our breath, kind of checked in with that a little bit already. Did you notice any congestion? Was the breath easy? Did it flow easily, or is there a bit of constriction somewhere? So our energy body consists of our breath. It consists of the chakras and the nadis, these subtle energies within the body. So that can also be where we may notice that sense of anxiety that many of us are feeling right now. And we all can experience that differently. There may be an overall sense of nervousness, an unsettled feeling in the body, not knowing what's next in our lives or in the world. You might have a specific area of the body you feel this. A couple of us mentioned that we feel that in our solar plexus. It comes and goes, this nervousness or this sense of anxiety. Do you feel 100% at peace? Beautiful. Accept that. And we find this acceptance without getting attached to anything, right? So if we're feeling really balanced and at peace, it's easy to get attached to that. And we want to feel that all the time. And then when we don't, we find a judgment against it, or we get confused, or we get frustrated. So just noticing what is in this moment, and also recognizing, accepting that it will change. And in this checking in, we can notice where our thoughts and emotions are today. With that next layer in, those areas I've already mentioned may have piqued some thoughts to take off, or some emotions may have arisen from it. Can you acknowledge those? If there are thoughts that are taking you away from this moment, right? Joey has shared great stories about this. Can you put those thoughts in the clouds and just kind of let them float off for a while? This may be a particular person, or a fear of some sort, or simply your to-do list. Either way, those thoughts are keeping you from this very moment. And if they're meant to come back, they will. And then noticing if you feel, or how connected you do feel to your place or your seat of intuition, your wisdom body, where the answers reside. The best choices you can make for your self-care today. And not just here on our mats, but into our life, our daily life. So I'm going to invite you to reflect for a moment on this practice of yoga, meaning the bigger picture of yoga with a capital Y, not just the postures we do here, although beautiful. You all have been working with me long enough to know that there is a vast teaching to yoga that extends well beyond the poses. And those teachings I intermingle or intertwine into classes. And they're meant to help you off your mat. They're meant to support you in your daily life, how you interact with yourself and others, the choices you make. And so I'm going to invite you to take a moment here to reflect upon how this practice is positively affecting you off your mats. In what ways has your life shifted due to this practice, due to these teachings? It may be very subtle, and it could be really obvious. It could be a way that somehow you've shifted a belief system to what you choose to eat or not eat, towards your self-care practices on a daily basis. It can choose who you have a relationship with now or don't have, the ability to set boundaries in some way, right? So really looking at that for a moment and just honoring that. That's how we know if our practice is serving us, is how it's positively affecting change in our daily lives. So I'm going to share with you a reading to bring into the practice with one another today by Dana Falls. It's from her book, From Root to Bloom. This is what I have to say to you. In the first stage of your journey, you learn to replace harmful beliefs with helpful ones. It was such a relief to let go of negativity that it became a temptation to stay there, to make your home in those newly acquired positive thoughts. But a positive self-image is still a mask. The next stage of your journey is becoming comfortable with the unknown. It involves being clear and courageous enough to rest in bare awareness without having to create another identity, without needing to tack yet another belief to the end of I am. Experience the expansion, the spaciousness that comes from resting in the truth of unknowing. It isn't comfortable, at least not now, but it is powerful and inherently creative. It's what your soul longs for. Use this sense of vertigo to leave behind the known and let go of the need to tether your soul to anything solid or definable. Let yourself go over and over until it is second nature to be weightless. So take whatever parts of that reading struck you into the practice and from a sense of feeling. We want to do the best we can in quieting the mind and overthinking that, and notice where it may have resonated in your body, in your heart. And just bring that energy or allow it to support or guide you in the practice. This idea of finding acceptance in the unknown, not having everything figured out and solved, and without tacking on that other identity of I am. Come back, or rest your attention in your breath. Begin to lengthen it. It's comfortable to, lengthen it to about an 85% of capacity. And allow your belly to softly rise and fall here. Belly expands on each inhale and releases on each exhale. The chest is still and the belly moves up and down. Just discover what's coming up for you, what you feel, what you're noticing. Now also notice as you're breathing, your natural tendency on the exhale. Is it to exhale through the nose or is it to exhale through the mouth? And I really invite you to find what resonates with you. And it can change from day to day. It can change even during the practice. The biggest thing I want you to focus on, however, is the length of your breath and evening it out. And just counting silently to yourself, just what is the comfortable length for you? Is it a 4 count, a 5 count, a 6 count? In which you bring that breath to that 85% of fullness, and then slowly releasing it, taking the same amount of time it did to bring it in. We're going to play with this even breath throughout the practice, allowing it to be our primary focus in and out of poses. So we maintain a sense of coolness as well as ease. Right? To rest in the unknown can feel less than easeful. And so can we create ease? Let's start with this practice. You have a basic idea of where I might take you, yet it is unknown. What am I going to teach today? So resting in the unknowing in a place of trust. And it's not only about trusting me, it's about trusting yourself and the choices you make in this practice for you. Now we're going to bring this breath, this full or this even breathing, throughout the torso. So just feel a sense of expansion on the inhale where the heart opens, you feel the rib cage expand side to side, and the belly. So allow the whole torso to breathe here. Placing your arms by your side, bringing the feet parallel all the way together. Let's do our low back hair series since we had a low back request. Right, so just starting off really slowly, side to side with the knees, keeping the feet planted. So it's just a few inches right across the sacrum. Check in with your own low back and notice what's coming up for you. What do you feel? And if you have total comfort here, no issues whatsoever, bless you. Accept that and know it could change. And for now, you're feeling great, and this practice can benefit you as well. So not only does our low back practice work on mobility and keeping that low back mobile, it also works with strength. And so we'll touch base on that pose we did on Monday just to cover our bases again on that. So we want that flexibility in our lumbar spine as well as working on the strength, which occurs from the core, no doubt, and our sacrum, low back, and hips. Now noticing here how this feels for you, feet, knees stay together. The feet have been firmly planted this whole time. And then decide if you'd like to take this a little farther. Now this means twisting. And so what I'm going to share with you, and this is something I've learned even in my recent studies, is that those of us who have bulging discs in our low back, which I've been working with now for almost 30 years, we really shouldn't do any deep twisting at all, ever. It needs to stay very minimal. So just know in your own body what's going on in your low back and how deeply you take this, as well as the fact we're just beginning the practice. We're just warming up. And so it isn't advisable to find your deepest twist here at all. You keep it pretty minimal. As you move side to side, the other thing we want to be aware of now is as we begin our practice, I want you to draw the navel to the spine, slightly tuck the tail. Okay, so there's that core engagement, that sense of hugging in. And when we talked on Monday about that vata energy, that disbursement of energy, vata resides in the colon and then in our pelvis. So the containing that energy, finding that core strength is really important to helping reduce this sense of anxiety and uncertainty in the unknown that we feel right now. So as we move along with this practice, most of you, I think, have realized that there's a physical component to this, but there's even deeper mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects to this practice going on. And then bringing that back to center and taking the feet hip width apart. And then from here, finding your hip hikers or sliders. Okay. So the hips are just sliding at the mat. Movements are small. I hope I don't sound like a broken record. I like to instruct this every time because I know people hear it differently every time. And a lot of these classes I bring to my YouTube channel, and I don't know who's always watching them, then they have never done this. So we want to make sure the knees move towards you in a way they do not move side to side. Okay? If they're moving side to side, you're making the movement too big or in the wrong direction. So this is really nice for the sacrum, a little bit in the lumbar spine as well. Bring that to center. Place the push in gently into the right foot. Push that right knee away from you as the right hip moves up to the ceiling. Just a few inches. Your right cheek comes off the floor just a few inches and back down. Then the same thing on the left side. And back down. Now here, we are still engaging with the core. You wouldn't think so, but yet we want to breathe into the chest now through the practice and allow the core to be engaged, supporting us, containing that energy. Right? So rather than dispersing our energy, we're trying to bring it in and contain it. And as I've been sharing and talking and instructing, what happened to your breath? Find your way into that nice, even flow of breath, which we will use more deliberately when we come to standing. Now bring that to center. You may have had a particular movement that felt better than another. Come back to that one. Or you're welcome to take a moment here and simply alternate between those two. So this first option here, your choice to do what is best in your self-care today. And then bring that to center, pause, and check in. What are the results of the choices you made for yourself? What are you feeling in the physical body? How is the other layers of your being responding? And from here, let's take this into our pelvic tilts. Okay, so I'm going to invite you to engage this from your core and less about pressing into the feet. So relax the feet as much as you can and generate this movement from the pelvis, from your core. So the navel drawn to the spine, and you can keep that engagement the whole time. Flattening the low back into the floor is a posterior tilt. So we're getting rid of the curve in our spine. Anterior tip of the pelvis, we create that lumbar tilt, or kind of like a back bend, right? Posterior tuck under, anterior reverse. Let's touch on this a little bit today so that we understand where we are in space, whether we're on our backs, whether we're on hands and knees, whether we're prone, whether we're standing. Okay, it's the same concept, or the same terminology will be used, posterior, anterior tilt. I think on our backs is the easiest way to find that. Bring that to neutral, and then draw the knees into the chest. And so just find that gentle stretch in the low back. See how that feels for you. We want to stay away from pain. We're not trying to push through anything. So modify whatever you need to. Maybe the knees are not as drawn as far into the chest. Or maybe you like to grab behind the knees because your knees are sensitive. That's fine too. And then finding our way into our Apanasana. Inhale, arm lengths away. Exhale towards you. And then from here, take this into knee circles. And you just feel how you're circling all around the pelvic bowl. You're circling around your sacrum. And it's a bit of a massage as you move across that low back. Eventually reversing the direction. And how's your breath doing? Inhale and exhale evenly from the chest. Placing your feet back into your mat, and take the feet out as wide as your mat. So this is our double knee drop, and yes, this is a twist. Because we're bringing our feet wider, It's a very safe twist to do, even if we do have a little something in our low backs. And again, you listen though as to how deeply you take this and what you have going on in your backs today. Open the arms wide, palms up. And then from here on an exhale, release the knees to one side. Keep your core engaged. So really draw the navel to the spine. Keep that engagement as we open wide and the knees release to the other side. So feel the support that engaging your core provides. It's a very different movement when we relax that versus engage it. Okay, so my low back feels very safe, very supported as long as I'm engaging my core. So notice what it does for you. And then if you'd like to involve the head, begin to rotate it in the opposite direction the knees are falling. And we just work into a very gentle twist through the spine. And then when you've gone equally to both sides, bring the knees back to center. And bring your right ankle to your left knee. Okay, so our figure four. We're going to do a little bit through a hip stretch. So you can stay here and simply push that knee away from you. Keep your left foot in the floor. This is one option. And this might feel perfect. The pelvis is fairly neutral, meaning there should be a very slight sense of space between your low back and the floor, as opposed to tucking it under. Okay. The next option, of course, is to interlace the hands through the hole, grab behind that left thigh, and pull that figure four up towards you. And that's going to deepen that stretch you experience. Some of you have mentioned to me you feel it on the inner groin. And most of us also feel that in that outer hip. Flex that right foot. We can flex both, but particularly the right. That helps to protect that knee. From here, you can hold, be still, feel the groundedness of this pose and your breath, or you're also welcome to a little side-to-side movement, kind of a sense of rocking side to side a bit. Notice how that feels. Keep breathing. Stay with that even breath. Again and again, remind yourself to come back to that. And then we'll release, place the left foot in the floor, and take a moment to extend that right leg out along the floor. Just stretch that out a little bit. Maybe shake it side to side. And then we'll switch sides. Left ankle to the right knee. Take that right, just press that knee away from you. Just start here for a moment. Flex that left foot. Notice how that feels on this side. Rather than jumping to conclusions or assumptions that we're going to do it exactly the same on this side. Taking these steps, discovering what's going on in our bodies. And then if you decide, go ahead and pick that up, interlacing the hands behind the right thigh. Keep that left foot flexed. Pulling that in Finding the stretch that serves you today. And then again, decide to be still, just pausing the movement, just simply be with your breath, the ease of that, or if it serves, you can rock side to side a bit. Take this side as its own entity or its own thing. Don't assume or feel like you need to do it exactly the same way. Honor the asymmetry that you may be discovering. The imbalances that we all have. Place that right foot back into the floor and now extend the left leg, shake that out a little bit. And if you have anything underneath your head like I do, go ahead and move it off to the side. And then we're going to go ahead, bend both knees, placing the feet in the floor, arms by your side. Let's do a little bit of a moving bridge. Always so nice for the low back. If you find a sensitivity in lifting and lowering today because your low back is inflamed, I just want to offer this option to take a block at its flattest level, place it right underneath your sacrum, and find more of a restorative position. Bring your feet off the floor and rest here. Okay, so if the movement doesn't serve you, I just wanted to offer that option. And only you'll know. Okay, so if you'd like to do our 3-part moving bridge, before we come into the movement, I want you to find your even breath and know what your count is. Okay, so is it inhale 4, exhale 4, or 5, 5, or 6, 6? What is going to be a breath, a length of breath that you can carry through the practice? So imagine coming to an active standing pose. Is this a breath, a length of breath that you can manage in an active standing pose? Okay. And from here, you'll go ahead and on an inhale, start to roll the spine up off the floor and bring the arms overhead to that inhale count, whatever that is for you. Leave the arms there as you exhale and lower the spine back down to that same count. And then inhale. And exhale everything down together, same count. So it's a very mindful movement, a bit of a meditation. We need to focus on that count of breath and creating as smooth of a connection with the movement as you can. Very little pause. There's a sense of ease to the flow. And avoiding creating too much heat right now in the midst of summer heat. So the slower we move, the better. Continue with this for a couple more rounds. You can have the eyes closed. If you change up the way you're moving, that's okay. Right? Trusting where you're led, where this practice takes you, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Trust that. Be open to what it has to teach you or show you. The next time you complete a series, you find your way back to our starting point, pause for a moment to Simply feel the echo of the practice. Feel the results of the choices you made. What is going on in the physical body, the energy body, mental, emotional body, wisdom. And then just check in with the low back too. Our primary focus for the first 20 minutes or so of this practice has been low back care. Just noticing if anything has shifted for you. Let's go ahead and roll to one side and find our way to hands and knees. And as we place the hands in our mats, are just going to invite you to play with a little wider placement of the hands. So we oftentimes have them fairly narrow, even narrower than our shoulders. And I have really broad shoulders, but take the hands so that the pinkies, the tips of your pinkies, touch the outer edges of your mat. And then the wrists, creases of your wrist are parallel with the short edge of your mat. Just really playing a little bit with our alignment that we haven't addressed in a little while. So right here, draw navel to spine. So notice if that engagement had to occur. Like I was already naturally engaging mine. It's just where it goes, what I do. Did you need that reminder? That's supporting your backs. So we want to keep that engagement, and the breath is going to move in and out from the chest, our heart. All right, so here in a neutral position, as we tuck the tailbone under, round the spine, posteriorly tilt. Okay, so we're losing that curve, we're rounding the low back. Reverse that. We create a back bend, anterior tilt. Lift the head. The entire time as I move back and forth with these two poses, my core is engaged. There's not a point in which I am releasing that. I can't stress that or emphasize that enough. Your whole practice, there is an engagement of the core until we get to Shavasana. From here, let's take this into kind of our playful movement I haven't offered in a while. Circling the hips around. Again, your core is engaged and we're keeping that breath flow even. So even in these smaller movements, that breath is continuing to flow in and out with that same count. Whatever count you're working with. And then we can, as we circle the hips, we can move side to side with the body. Kind of incorporate all of that into just a sense, kind of squirming around in the spine or snake-like movements in the spine. And then eventually finding your way back into a child's pose if that's available to you. If not, you can come onto the belly. You can stay on hands and knees. Just take a moment to find a place of stillness to kind of feel the results of that movement. Notice maybe the warmth in the low back or whatever it is that you're discovering. Just feel that. And then from here, let's find our way into our Chakravakasana. We inhale up to hands and knees. Core is engaged. Tuck the chin, tuck the tail, roll back into that child's pose. Exhale. I'm still drawing my navel to my spine. I've not released that. Inhale, that strength, that engagement lifts me, as well as my breath and my heart. Exhale back. Slow, steady, and creating this movement in a way that embraces the idea of ease, coolness, safety, comfort. And the next time you find your way up to hands and knees, let's curl our toes under, finding our way into our first down dog today. For those of you stuck with your wrists, remember you can do this from your forearms, which is more considered dolphin pose, but you're welcome to go there. Support yourself in any way you need to. Walking our heels in and out of the floor, bending the knees, shifting the hips. Maybe circling the head. And then eventually finding your way back down to your knees and into a child's pose. Feel that first down dog. Notice the results. What's going on in the body? What happened to your breath? And then let's find our way, just a few rounds of our mini flow before we come to standing. So inhaling to hands and knees. Core is engaged. Exhale into down dog. We're finding and maintaining that even breath. Inhaling back to knees. And exhaling back into your child's pose. Okay, so just back and forth here with an even breath. Smooth, easeful flow. Continuously checking in with how the body is responding, how your heart, emotions, mental body are responding, all of those parts of our being. And the next time you find your way into down dog, please pause there. And then walk your feet to your hands. Okay, so you're finding your way into a standing forward fold. Allowing the spine to drape over the thighs, release the head and the shoulders. Just let everything hang out for a moment. Bend the knees as much as you need to so that the back of the legs, you're experiencing a gentle stretch, nothing too intense. You can also use a block to lift the hands or even bring the forearms to your thigh if you need to. Okay. Just finding your version of a forward fold that serves you. Bring your hands to your hips, bend the knees, lengthen the spine, engage with your core, and slowly come up. We find our way to Tadasana. So I'm going to stay sideways to you, okay, just so it gives you a visual. Place your feet parallel and shoulder width apart. So we worked on this on Monday. I addressed this on Monday a little bit in that having our feet be a little wider can create more of a sense of stability or strength or groundedness. Okay? Yoga does teach to bring the feet all the way together, and that doesn't serve all of us. Okay, and as women, it definitely doesn't serve us in regards to the fact, I'm probably not the best example because I don't have that much I don't have much in the way of hips, but our hips tend to be wider, right, than most men, and bringing our feet together can kind of create a sense of instability or some issues in the hips. So we're always better off coming as women to be more hip width apart or even shoulder width apart. Okay? So you can play with that, find that just right stance for you. Knees are soft. We just want to avoid locking into the knee joints. Knees are soft. Core is engaged. So right here, we can find that neutral pelvis. All right, so I have a hard time finding a really severe anterior tilt just due to my limitations, but that anterior tip of the pelvis, we're throwing the front of our hip bones forward. It usually throws the chest, kind of blows open the chest, and we find a really deep back bend here. Okay, that doesn't serve everyone. Or the opposite, we tuck under. Here's that posterior tilt. I can do this a little too well. We posteriorly tilt, and now we're like collapsing in our hearts, rounding forward. We're shutting ourselves off emotionally. We're dropping into these hip flexors and creating stress there, right? And we're shortening that hamstring attachment. And it just gives us that sense of really poor posture. So really just finding that neutral spine, nice and tall, with that core engaged the whole time, okay? Let's come to that movement or exercise we did on Monday. Bring the palms of your hands to your buttocks. As your spine is nice and tall, the core engaged, we breathe into the chest. So take a nice inhale here. Find that even flow of breath. One more inhale. And with the same length of your exhale, fold forward, bringing the backs of the hands down the thighs. Engage with that core, lengthen the spine, bend the knees if you need to as you come back up. Okay, so we exhale, fold, core is engaged, spine long. Same length as we inhale and come back up. So just a few times on your own, with that core engaged the whole time and that nice, even breath. The more you bend your knees coming up, you're going to find it's a little easier on your low back. So if your low back's been inflamed today, don't hesitate to bend the knees even more. Last time, exhale. And inhale, coming back up. Arms relaxed by your side as you take a moment to feel. Good. So find the center of your mat, okay, and we're going to take our feet as wide or fairly wide. So if I was to bring my arms out, my wrists approximately come to my ankles. It's an approximation. We're going to shift it as we move. We're going to just do some standing poses. I'm going to stay sideways here to you. Okay. And the first one we're going to do is our warrior two. Point your right toes to the short edge of your mat. Left toes close slightly. Okay. Bend into that front knee. We're not really going to take this very deep. This is more about connecting with this breath and sense of ease, moving in and out of the pose. We're going to bring our arms up, shoulder height, palms down. Okay. Take a look out over those right fingers for now. And when you're ready, find that length of breath, that even length of breath you're working with. We inhale here. Exhale, bend into that front knee. Whether that's a 4, 5, 6 count, whatever you're working with. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. Right, so I'm using a 5 count. I'm taking 5 counts to exhale into the pose. 5 counts to come back out of the pose. The entire time, my navel is drawn to the spine. And I'm breathing from my heart, from my chest. So I'm containing my energy through my core as my heart remains open. I'm finding a stable and grounded position, even in movement. Now, the next time you exhale into the pose, pause for 3 breaths And if you need to release the arms, feel free. Maybe bring them to your heart. I know we're holding here a long time. If you can, leave them up. Can you find a way to create ease in the effort? What can we relax into, as well as finding the strength to be in the pose? And after that third breath, or on your third inhale, fourth inhale, I guess it would be come on up, or just straighten that leg, release the arms, coming back to the straddle. Okay. Take a moment to feel that. Feel the pose. Okay, now we'll rotate the left foot to the short edge of the mat. Right foot rotates in. The spine stays tall. We want to make sure our spine stays upright. And I didn't address this on the first side, but be aware of where your pelvis is in space in this pose. If we posteriorly tip, we drop into and create strain in that right hip flexor. If I anteriorly tilt the pelvis, I'm in a bit of a back bend. It's hard for me to do this. And then I'm closing off in the left hip flexor, or my heart's falling forward or blowing open. So where's that neutral spine? Okay, for you, just finding that. Arms float up. Finding the breath, look out the left fingertips. I'm sorry, I'm not facing you all. And then find that even length of breath. Inhaling here, we exhale into the pose. And we inhale, straighten, whatever that count is for you. We're just slowly moving in and out. We did it about a half dozen times, about 6 times. When you feel you've moved in and out equally, as we did in the first round, come in and hold, pause here for about 3 breaths. Where can you soften and create some ease? And then release. Come back to the straddle and bring your feet back together, or like shoulder or hip width apart. Right, so where we started. And maybe shake it out a little bit, because we're going to come back to that straddle. So if you need to kind of release your feet. As well as just checking in and feeling the effects of that series. Come back to the straddle. Okay, so again, approximately wrist width apart. Some of you may feel like you want to go a little wider, and some of you may feel like you need to be a little narrower stance. Release the hands. Right toes to the front of your mat again. Okay, so our warrior 2 stance, except this time instead of warrior 2, we're going to move in and out of the extended side angle. Okay, so but otherwise the foundation is exactly the same. Inhale, arms rise up. We exhale into the pose. Forearm to the thigh, left arm up and over. That core is engaged. Inhale, come back up to our starting point. Okay, so what? Another 5 rounds. We moved in and out 6 times with that even count of breath. Slow and steady. We are not releasing that core, ladies. Keep that navel to the spine. And we'll come in and hold on this side for 3 breaths. depending on how your neck feels, you can look straight down to the right toes, or you can rotate the gaze up underneath the left arm to the ceiling. We're lengthening through the right side body. Keep that core engaged. And then slowly find your way back up. Feet parallel. Release the arms. Just feel that side for a moment. Left toes point to the short edge of your mat. Close the right foot just slightly. All right, arms float up. Inhale. And here we go on this side. Exhale, forearm to the thigh, right arm up and over. Core engaged, spine long. Inhale, brings us back up. And the exhale supports us as we release into the pose. When you feel you've gone equally in and out of the pose, hold for 3 breaths. Containing the core, feeling the groundedness of our feet in the earth, the strength and stability of standing poses. Very grounding for Vata energy. And then go ahead on your inhale, brings you back up, straddled, feet parallel. And then just heel toe or jump them together, whatever's best for you. Hip width or shoulder width apart. Arms relaxed by your side. Just feel that pose. Noticing the sensations. Good. So finding your way to the front of your mat. And on an inhale, lift up or reach up, palms together. Exhale, fold forward. And stepping both feet back to down dog, just for a moment. Coming to the knees. And then I'm going to ask you to find your way onto your belly. So we're going to cover that pose that we did on Monday. Now, Celia, since your low back is a bit tender today, you may just want to observe this and notice what you can shift the next time you try it, unless your low back has calmed down so far. Otherwise, just observe this. So we placed our hands right next to our rib cage. Okay, the elbows are tucked in, shoulders up off the floor. When we come up into a back bend, and whether we are in a deep back bend or a minimal back bend, it's the same thing. We want to lengthen our low back first. So drawing the navel towards the spine, like you're trying to take it off the floor. It's not going to happen, but I want you to feel that. And notice that when you engage the core, there's an ever so slight tucking of the tail. And if there's not, we want to find that. So you want to minimally posteriorly tip the pelvis. Okay, so you're tucking that tailbone under, flattening, or a better way to put it is lengthening the low back. If we let the belly go, if we relax it completely and then come up into the pose that we did, that creates an impingement on that low back. So with the cores engaged the whole time, there's a slight tucking of the tailbone. Then I can lift through my heart and lift the legs. But the whole time, I'm also tucking the tail. And then from there, we can open and close. And then release back down. Keep your hands where they are. Release your forehead to the floor. Relax it for a moment. Just kind of feel what's going on for you, okay? And then again, engage the core, tuck the tail, then start to lift through the heart, looking straight down, and then keep that engagement. This is a very active aspect of this pose. Keep that engagement, keep the lengthening of the tail, even as you lift your legs. Now, you don't have to lift high. You don't have to bring them a foot off the floor. You just bring them a few inches. Tuck that tail, and then open, squeeze closed, and then relax back down again. Just see how that feels. Let it go. And just notice if there's something different for you here in these instructions than what you may have felt on Monday, because I'll get some feedback after class here, okay? So one more time. Slightly tuck the tail as you engage the core, lift the heart, and then lift the legs just a few inches. My low back here feels very supported when I do this. And I can open wide, come back together, squeeze, and lower. Okay, let's rest your head in your hands and bend the knees, bring the feet up off the floor. And you can either do a scissor motion side to side, crisscross, or you can sway side to side. It's just a nice release. And then we'll go ahead and place the hands back where they were by your chest. Engage with your core as you press up. And we're going to come onto our backs. Okay? So I hope that was helpful. That made sense if I added that instruction in there. Okay? Have a block with you, please, or a fascia ball, or I'd like to do a little bit of a restorative bridge pose after that movement. Okay, we focused a lot on our low back. So we're going to take either your air-filled ball, fascia ball, or the block. Either way is fine. And at the block at its flattest level, place it right underneath your sacrum. Okay. Making sure we don't have the block too high up the back. It's not going to feel good on the low back. So it's kind of right on the sacrum. I tuck my tail so my low back is lengthened, arms by my side, palms up, opens my heart, drops my shoulders back. You can keep your feet in the floor, right? Like we began, just let the knees fall together if that's what you'd like to do. Or you can pick the feet up off the floor, lifting the knees. Or you can extend the legs. And so just noticing what resonates with you, what feels right for you, trusting that guidance. Once you've settled into the pose that feels right for you, the position, I invite you to come back into that belly breathing. Notice if anything is shifted or this belly breath feels different than when we begin. And so we want to feel the results of our practice. We can feel it in the physical body. Notice what's shifted there. We also want to notice what may have shifted in our heart and mind, in our thoughts, in our emotions, in our energy body, our overall well-being. Once again, inviting our chest to be still and the belly to move with the breath. Take about 1 more minute here. And slowly release the feet if you lifted them off the floor. Remove the block or the fascia ball, whichever you chose to use. Allow the spine to come back into a neutral position on the floor for a moment. Before we go into our releases, just feel the results of the practice thus far. And then let's draw the knees into the chest. And find our way into our Apanasana, just a few rounds. And some knee circles in both directions. Placing the feet back into the floor, finding your way into our pelvic tilts. Tuck under and reverse that. Not only is this an opportunity to release the practice, it's also an opportunity to kind of notice what may have shifted from the beginning to the end. Is there a difference in your range of motion or pain level or ease, whatever it may be? Coming into neutral, and then go ahead and take a moment to just alternate between our hip hikers and hip pointers, or choose your favorite one. You're still engaging with your core here. And then dropping into neutral as you extend the legs out along the floor. Let's find our way into Shavasana. Arms open a little ways out from your side, palms up. Please feel free to place a folded or rounded rolled blanket underneath the knees, which is really nice for the low back, to have the knees bent and supported. And or something underneath your head. If you have an eye pillow, feel free to use that. Now we give ourselves this opportunity to drop into a state of non-doing and to simply receive the gifts this practice held for you. As you do, I'll be guiding you through a Yoga Nidra practice, which is deeply relaxing, healing, nurturing, grounding. So just notice if there's any last minute adjustments that you need to make for the body to be completely comfortable. And once you are settled in, bring your awareness to your breath. And again, feel the air enter the nostrils, noticing the sensations of the air where it meets the nostrils at the back of the throat. Noticing the sensation there. It doesn't have to be shaping of the breath right now, lengthening it or equaling the breath. Just notice the sensations where the air meets the back of the throat. Relax your whole body and become aware of the space that your body occupies. Begin to sense a nurturing tone to the environment. The atmosphere is charged with ease and healing. Bring your awareness to the rise and fall of your abdomen. Simply aware of your body breathing effortlessly, chest still, abdomen softly rising and falling. On each inhale, sense that your body and mind are being recharged and replenished. And as you exhale, let go of all mental and physical tension. Continue to be aware of your breath, strengthening on inhale, releasing and letting go on exhale. Abdomen softly rises and falls, chest is still. The breath is silent, and there's just an internal awareness of sound. No strain, no effort. Let go of your awareness of your breath, and now bring your attention to the midbrain or third eye center. Deep in that space, sense a point of light like a luminous star, a star-like point of light in the midbrain. And as you relax, sense the breath present in that space. Bring awareness to the throat center. See or feel a star-like point of light. Right shoulder, point of light. Right elbow. Right wrist. Tip of the right thumb, presence and light, the whole body, mind, and breath effortless. Index fingertip, middle finger relax, ring finger, little finger, right wrist, point of light relax, right elbow, right shoulder, throat center, point of light, whole body effortless. Left shoulder, left elbow, left wrist, point of light, relax. Left thumb tip, index finger, tip of the middle finger, ring finger, little finger, left wrist completely relaxed, left elbow, star-like point of light, relax, left shoulder, throat, see or feel the light in the throat center, let go, be open, no trying. Heart center, center of the right chest, heart center, point of light, presence, awareness in the heart, left chest, heart center, navel center, top of the sacrum, light at the top of the sacrum, right hip joint, right knee, right ankle, tip of the right big toe, second toe, third, fourth, tip of the little toe, point of light, right ankle, right knee, right hip joint, point of light, top of the sacrum, relaxed, nothing to do, left hip joint, left knee, left ankle, star-like point of light, tip of the left big toe, second toe, third, fourth, tip of the little toe, point of light, relax, left ankle, knee, hip, point of light, top of the sacrum, navel center, point of light, heart center, throat center, midbrain or third eye, point of light. Relax the whole body, the starlight point of light in the midbrain and third eye. Now see all of these points at once, like twinkling lights in the night sky. All of these points are vibrant, awake, and luminous. The body has become a constellation of points of light. Now sense the space between those points. Pure, undiluted spaciousness. You are space and points of light. Notice the breath moving through that space. Your spacious awareness, conscious of the breath that moves through that space. The body sleeps, the mind sleeps, but you resolve to stay awake. Consciousness remains awake effortlessly. Now sense that the body has dissolved. You are a cloud or a rose-colored light. The boundaries of the body have dissolved into a cloud of rose color. Dissolve all thought, all grasping, all concepts, and just simply melt into a rose-colored cloud. Eventually, you dissolve completely as you become the cloud aware of itself. Letting go completely. No more becoming, just rest in timeless being. Awareness and the breath, asleep to the finite, awake to the infinite. Sense the breath as your link to boundless intelligence and consciousness. This is what I have to say to you. In the first stage of your journey, you learn to replace harmful beliefs with helpful ones. It was such a relief to let go of negativity that it became a temptation to stay there, to make your home in those newly acquired positive thoughts. But a positive self-image is still a mask. The next stage of your journey is becoming comfortable with the unknown. It involves being clear and courageous enough to rest in bare awareness without having to create another identity, without needing to tack yet another belief to the end of I am. Experience the expansion, the spaciousness that comes from resting in the truth of unknowing. It isn't comfortable, at least not now, but it is powerful and inherently creative. It's what your soul longs for. Use this sense of vertigo to leave behind the known and let go of the need to tether your soul to anything solid or definable. Let yourself go over and over until it is second nature to be weightless. Begin to take some nice deep breaths. Wiggle some fingers and toes. Maybe stretch a little bit, reaching overhead. And eventually roll to one side. Pause in that first movement, that larger movement. And then find your way to a seated position. Spine tall, eyes softly closed. Just a resting in awareness of what is. Noticing and experiencing the results of that practice. And I invite you to notice how it may affect your day. How is this practice positively affecting your life, your daily life? Bring your palms together to your hearts. Acknowledge this time of self-care. Honor yourself for making that choice. and gratitude for each other and this practice and time we share together. And I thank you for allowing me to take the seat of teacher. Namaste.